They say you can't judge a book by its cover, but how often do we truly live by that wisdom? We see a single page, a brief chapter, and believe we know the whole story. But sometimes, the most unassuming covers hide the most extraordinary tales of resilience and strength. This is one of those stories.
So, why did your mother get a divorce? From what I've seen, women who get divorced these days always have some issue. Was there a problem with her personality, perhaps? The shocking question, thrown across the table at an elegant Los Angeles restaurant, made the air freeze. Everyone was stunned into silence. The future mother-in-law's words were a naked display of prejudice, a blatant dismissal of a family from a divorced home. But she had no idea that in less than 5 minutes, her face would turn pale with regret. "Excuse me, are you Eleanor Vance, the attorney?" The sudden appearance of the restaurant's owner, his deferential tone, and the shocking revelation that followed would change everything. Chloe's mother wasn't just a single mom. She was the head of a law firm with an annual revenue of over $4 million. A woman who had risen from the ashes of domestic abuse to raise her daughter alone and build an empire. What became of the rude and presumptuous future mother-in-law? This is the incredible story of a fateful mistake born from prejudice and the moving twist of fate that lay hidden just beneath the surface. A story of a family meeting that almost ended in disaster. Let's begin. And before we start, if you enjoy our stories, please subscribe and hit the like button. It truly helps us create more content for you. A quiet tension, thicker than usual, filled the air at the Cypress Grove, a high-end restaurant in a wealthy Los Angeles neighborhood. In a private room on the second floor, two families were preparing to meet for the first time. Ethan, 27, adjusted his tie for the 10th time, staring at his reflection. Today was the day he would finally introduce the woman he loved to his parents. He and Chloe had been together for over 2 years, ever since meeting at work. Chloe, a nurse at a major university hospital, had captured his heart with her bright and confident spirit. Ethan's mother, Margaret, had spent the morning at the hair salon, ensuring her appearance was flawless. Though in her 50s, she maintained an elegant grace. As a homemaker, she took a particular interest in her son's choice of a spouse, and she had been eagerly awaiting this day, her expectations sky-high. She hoped for a perfect daughter-in-law, impeccable family background, education, looks, and personality. She naturally assumed her son's future in-laws would be of a similar caliber to her own family. Ethan's father, Robert, also looked more dapper than usual. At 55, he ran a mid-sized construction company. He was a stubborn man, but one who valued loyalty above all. He trusted his son's judgment, but a part of him was still nervous. He'd met countless people in his business, but a child's marriage was a different matter entirely. He couldn't help but worry about potential problems. Meanwhile, Chloe had been preparing for this day for a month. 26 and an ER nurse, she was normally outgoing, but today she tried to present a calmer version of herself. In the Uber on the way to the restaurant with her mother, she squeezed her mother's hand tightly. What will Ethan's parents be like? What if they don't like me? Worries swirled in her mind. Her mother, Eleanor, comforted her. At 51, Eleanor Vance was a successful attorney, but today, she was just a mother, filled with love for her daughter. Dressed in a chic black suit and a simple pearl necklace, she exuded an aura of calm intelligence. She had endured many hardships raising her daughter alone, and she felt a deep sense of pride that Chloe had found such a good man. "Chloe, don't be so nervous," she said softly. "Just be yourself. The truth always reveals itself in the end." At exactly 2 p.m., the two families met in the private room. A large, traditional wooden table sat in the center of the spacious room, with windows overlooking a beautiful garden. The atmosphere was luxurious, yet thick with tension. Ethan made the first introduction. "Mom, Dad, this is the woman I've told you so much about, Chloe." Chloe bowed her head politely. "Hello, I'm Chloe Evans. I've heard so many wonderful things about you from Ethan. It's a true honor to finally meet you." Her voice trembled slightly, but she tried to sound as confident as possible. Margaret scanned Chloe from head to toe. About 5'5", with a modest dress and natural, understated makeup. On the surface, she seemed acceptable, but something felt off. Only Chloe's mother had come. Usually both sets of parents attended such a meeting. Margaret was puzzled, but kept her thoughts to herself. Maybe he's running late? Or is there another reason? Robert, trying to be casual, asked as he sat down, "Chloe, where is your father? Is he held up with something urgent?" The question was innocent, but it instantly made the room awkward. After a brief, heavy silence, Chloe hesitated before answering cautiously, "My parents divorced when I was in elementary school. I haven't been in contact with my father since." The moment those words left her mouth, Margaret's expression shifted subtly. Her hopes for a perfect family background began to crumble. The word divorce echoed in her ears. While it wasn't uncommon these days, the idea of her daughter-in-law coming from a broken home bothered her. Ethan quickly noticed his mother's change in demeanor. "Mom, please don't make that face. It's not Chloe's fault." But Margaret's mind was already racing. A child of divorce? Does she have personality issues? Was she raised properly? I've heard children from divorced families are emotionally unstable. A storm of prejudices clouded her judgment. Outwardly, she pretended nothing was wrong, but inwardly, she was deeply disappointed. Eleanor, with years of experience reading subtle expressions in the courtroom, instantly sensed the other woman's disapproval. Yet, she maintained a calm smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Chloe's mother, Eleanor Vance. Chloe is always telling me how much help Ethan has been to her. She was so happy to have met such a wonderful person." Robert replied politely, "Ah, yes. A pleasure. Ethan talks about Chloe all the time, so we were curious." But the atmosphere remained strained. He, too, noticed his wife's displeasure. Margaret was now scrutinizing Eleanor. Her clothes and manners were fine, but something still felt unsettling. Chloe felt her mother's discomfort and her heart ached. But she loved Ethan, so she decided to endure it. "She'll understand eventually," she told herself. "With time, we can build a good relationship." Suddenly, the door burst open, and an unexpected guest appeared. Oh dear, the traffic was just awful. My goodness, is this the bride-to-be? She's so beautiful. It was Ethan's grandmother, Grace. At 75, she was spry and walked in without a cane, her silver hair neatly combed and her elegant dress giving her an air of dignity. Ethan jumped up, surprised. "Grandma, what are you doing here? You didn't say you were coming." Grace chuckled. "How could I miss meeting my grandson's fiancé? I didn't tell you, because I knew you'd all make a fuss." Margaret couldn't hide her flustered expression. "Mother, why did you come so suddenly? We weren't prepared." Her perfectly planned meeting was going off script, and it annoyed her. Grace sat down nonchalantly and looked at Chloe and Eleanor. "So this is Chloe. You really are lovely." No wonder Ethan couldn't stop bragging. Chloe quickly stood and bowed respectfully. "It's an honor to meet you, ma'am. I'm Chloe." Grace's warm first impression helped ease some of Chloe's tension. Eleanor also rose to greet her. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Eleanor Vance, Chloe's mother. Margaret didn't mention you would be joining us." Grace waved her hand dismissively. "What's there to prepare for? We're just people meeting people. No need for all that formality." "Eleanor, you said? That's a fine name." Grace's natural demeanor helped soften the mood. A waiter brought an extra tea setting for her. Looking at Eleanor, Grace asked, "Eleanor, what do you do for a living? You look so young to be Chloe's mother. You can't be more than 25 years older than me." Eleanor smiled. "You're too kind. I work as an attorney. I have a small practice, but I do my best." "An attorney?" Grace's eyes lit up. "That's wonderful. I know there are more female lawyers these days, but it's not an easy path. To do that while raising Chloe on your own, that's truly remarkable." As she watched her mother-in-law and Eleanor chat comfortably, Margaret felt a strange mix of emotions. Why is Mother so at ease with her, while I feel so uncomfortable? Am I being too judgmental? But still, the fact that Chloe came from a divorced family lingered in her mind. The meal began, a beautiful spread of fine cuisine filling the table. Grace tried to liven up the atmosphere. Chloe, this spinach is delicious, isn't it? Much better than at the place near my house. Chloe smiled. Yes, it's wonderful. Thank you for bringing us to such a lovely place. Grace beamed. We should do this more often. Ethan felt relieved. At least his grandmother genuinely seemed to like Chloe. Grandma, Chloe and I are planning a trip to Hawaii next month. Would you like to come with us? Grace waved him off. No, you young people go have fun. I'll stay home and watch my shows. But Margaret's expression remained grim. She picked at her food and barely participated in the conversation. Her silence was a heavy weight on the room. As the meal progressed, Margaret couldn't hold back any longer. There were too many unanswered questions. Even if it's our first meeting, shouldn't I know about the people who are about to become my family? Especially about something as sensitive as a divorce. She felt she needed to confirm there were no hidden problems. Margaret put down her fork and spoke carefully. Eleanor, if you don't mind my asking, may I ask you something? Eleanor looked up, a little tense. Of course. Ask me anything. After a moment's hesitation, Margaret dropped the bombshell. So, why did your mother get a divorce? A deafening silence fell over the table. Everyone seemed to stop breathing. Grace's face hardened. Ethan was mortified. Chloe's face went white, and Eleanor was, for a moment, speechless. The question was not just direct, it was incredibly rude. But Margaret, having asked, was determined to get an answer. Eleanor paused, then replied calmly, there were personal reasons. Perhaps it's a bit heavy to discuss at our first meeting. But Margaret pressed on, her expression unwavering. Well, from what I've seen, people who get divorced these days always have some reason. Was there a problem with your personality, perhaps? The atmosphere instantly turned to ice. Grace glared at her daughter-in-law. That's enough. That is no way to ask such a question. How rude can you be? Ethan quickly interjected. Mom, why would you say that? That's completely out of line. But Margaret had already crossed the line. Don't we have a right to know? They're about to become our family. Tears welled up in Chloe's eyes. She was humiliated and heartbroken to see her mother insulted like this. Eleanor, sensing her daughter's pain, fought to remain composed. I understand your concern. I truly do. But I never expected to be asked such a question in this manner. Margaret continued her interrogation. I'm sorry, but we need to know about the family of the woman my son is marrying. Are you hiding something? At that, Eleanor's expression flickered. In her long career as a lawyer, she had dealt with all kinds of abrasive people, but this was a direct, personal insult. Grace had had enough. Stop it. You're going too far. Who corners someone like this on the first meeting? But Margaret was too caught up in her own perfectionism and prejudice to see the massive mistake she was making. Eleanor took a deep breath, drawing on the composure she'd honed over years in the courtroom. She wouldn't respond emotionally, not for her daughter's sake. I told you it was a personal matter, but if you must know, I will tell you simply. It was because of my ex-husband's constant infidelity and domestic violence. Do you require a more detailed explanation? The words hung in the air. Margaret's face went from accusatory to stunned. Infidelity and domestic violence? That was the opposite of what she had insinuated. She had just realized that Eleanor was the victim. Grace clicked her tongue in sympathy. Oh, you poor thing. To have gone through that. It must have been so difficult, raising a child alone. Chloe squeezed her mother's hand. It's okay, Mom. It's all in the past. Eleanor smiled softly, patting her daughter's hand. Yes, it's okay. Everything is better now. Just as the tense atmosphere began to settle, the restaurant's manager, a well-dressed middle-aged man, entered the room. He typically only greeted VIP guests personally. His eyes scanned the room and widened when he saw Eleanor. "Excuse me, are you Eleanor Vance, the attorney?" Eleanor, surprised, replied, "Ah, yes. Hello." The manager, Mr. Peterson, approached their table, beaming. "I knew it was you. It's such an honor to have you at our restaurant. I'm Mr. Peterson. You gave me legal advice on my lease issue last year. Do you remember?" Everyone at the table turned to look at Eleanor. Ethan's family was visibly shocked. They knew she was a lawyer, but they had no idea she was so well known. Eleanor smiled modestly. "Oh, yes, I remember. Was everything resolved?" "Thanks to you it was," the manager said gratefully. "I would have been in big trouble without you. Your reputation is well deserved. You're a brilliant lawyer. Is this a family gathering? Please let me know if you need anything at all. You'll receive our absolute best service." Margaret was bewildered by the manager's reverent treatment. Eleanor wasn't just some local lawyer. She was clearly a prominent figure. Why didn't she mention this? Was I really that rude to her? A knot of anxiety began to form in her stomach. Grace marveled. "My goodness, Eleanor, you're a famous lawyer. I had no idea. You were so humble about it." Mr. Peterson continued to praise her. "What are you talking about? Everyone in this city knows Eleanor Vance. She's famous for taking on tough cases and winning. She's one of the best." Robert, Ethan's father, leaned forward, intrigued. "So, what field do you specialize in?" "I primarily handle civil litigation," Eleanor explained, "especially disputes related to real estate and construction." At the mention of construction, Robert's expression shifted. That was his industry. Mr. Peterson added, "Ms. Vance is incredible. Just last year, she won several multi-million-dollar cases. She made headlines in the business world when she won a massive lawsuit against Titan Construction." The moment he said Titan Construction, the color drained from Robert's face. The name was painfully familiar. 3 years ago, when his own company was on the brink of bankruptcy, he had faced an opposing lawyer in court. A lawyer who had completely dismantled his case. A lawyer named Eleanor Vance. Could it be? The lawyer who had defeated him was sitting right in front of him? Robert's voice trembled. "Excuse me, but was that the Titan Construction bankruptcy case from 3 years ago?" Eleanor looked at him closely, her eyes widening in recognition. "Wait, are you Robert Miller from Miller Construction? You were there representing your company." Robert nodded slowly. "Yes, that's me. You completely crushed us." The revelation left everyone at the table speechless. The coincidence was too dramatic to be real. Margaret was even more horrified. The woman she had just insulted was the same person who had defeated her husband in court. How could she possibly fix this? Grace was amazed. "Well, I'll be. The world is a small place. You two met in court." Eleanor looked apologetic. "I'm so sorry about that. It was just business, but I felt for your situation." Robert managed a wry smile. No. That's just how business is. You win some, you lose some. I just never imagined we'd meet again like this. Especially here." The manager, thrilled by the drama, added, "It's an amazing coincidence. But truly, Ms. Vance's skill is legendary. Her loss rate is almost zero. When people have a difficult case, she's the one they call." With every word of praise, Margaret felt smaller and smaller. The woman she had dismissed and treated with such disrespect was not only brilliant, but had also personally impacted her family's history. She was beginning to understand the true depth of her mistake. Chloe spoke, her voice filled with pride. "My mom's amazing, isn't she? I'm so proud of her." Ethan nodded. "She's incredibly impressive. Now I understand why you're so proud." Eleanor, a bit embarrassed by the attention, said, "Mr. Peterson, you're exaggerating. I'm just doing my job." The manager smiled. "You're too modest. Please, dinner tonight is on the house. I couldn't possibly charge you." But Robert politely declined. "No, thank you. This is on us. It's a special day." After the manager left, A strange silence fell over the room. Robert was lost in thought, the memory of that courtroom defeat still vivid. It had nearly destroyed his company. He finally spoke, his voice heavy with memory. "Ms. Vance, you really did beat us soundly back then. To be honest, that loss has stayed with me like a trauma." "I am truly sorry," Eleanor said sincerely. "I remember the case well. Professionally, I did my job, but personally, it weighed on me." Robert continued, "We almost went bankrupt after that. I couldn't even make payroll.
It was a dark time.
Thankfully, we recovered with another project, but it was a real struggle." As the story unfolded, Margaret felt more and more ashamed. Not only had she misjudged Eleanor, but she had been cruel to a woman who possessed immense strength and a professional history intertwined with her own husband's. Her earlier questions about divorce and character now seemed laughably ignorant. She had no idea what to say. Breaking the long silence, it was Margaret who finally spoke. "Eleanor, I was so out of line earlier. I am so sorry." Her voice trembled. Admitting her mistake wasn't easy, but she knew she had to. Eleanor offered a warm, forgiving smile. "It's all right.
It was our first meeting.
It's natural to be a little wary." "No," Margaret insisted, tears forming in her eyes. "I was rude, especially the way I asked about your divorce. I feel so ashamed thinking about it now." Eleanor continued to explain, her voice gentle but firm. "The abuse started small, but it escalated. He would come home drunk and lash out at me and at Chloe. I tried to endure it for Chloe's sake, to keep the family together. But when his violence put my daughter in danger, I knew I couldn't stay. I filed for divorce and got a restraining order." She looked at her daughter, her hand finding Chloe's. "Chloe is why I could endure it. She gave me the strength to keep going." Listening to the full story, Margaret was utterly humbled. She had judged a woman based on the single fact of her divorce, while the reality was a story of survival and courage. Eleanor went on. "After the divorce, times were tough. I was struggling financially, worried about Chloe's future. So, I started studying law at night. For 5 years, I worked during the day and studied all night. It was hell, but I couldn't give up." Grace looked at her with pure admiration. "You are an incredible woman. To become a lawyer under those circumstances, most people could never do that." "Now," Eleanor said with a modest smile, "I run my own law firm. It's grown to a decent size. We have 12 attorneys and an annual revenue of over $4 million. The final piece of the story landed with stunning force. $4 million. Her firm was more successful than Robert's company. Margaret was completely overwhelmed. The woman she had looked down on was a survivor, a self-made success, and a pillar of strength. Unable to contain her shame any longer, Margaret stood up and bowed deeply to Eleanor. "I am truly sorry. I was so rude. To judge someone as remarkable as you based on my own prejudices, I am deeply ashamed." Eleanor quickly rose and helped her up. "Please, Margaret, sit down. It's okay. It was a misunderstanding. It's all cleared up now." Margaret, tears streaming down her face, said, "I'm so sorry. I promise to do better." Grace smiled, a genuine warmth returning to the room.
"There.
Now this feels like a proper family meeting, with understanding and forgiveness." 3 weeks later, Margaret went to a luxury department store and bought an elegant pearl necklace. She enclosed it with a handwritten letter, pouring out her sincere apology and her newfound respect for Eleanor. 2 months later, at Ethan and Chloe's beautiful engagement party, the two mothers greeted each other not as adversaries, but as friends. 6 months after that, at the wedding, Eleanor walked her daughter down the aisle, taking the place of the father who was never there. It was a powerful, moving moment that brought tears to everyone's eyes, including Margaret's. A year later, their first child was born. Margaret and Eleanor, now the proud grandmothers, fussed over the baby together, their past friction a distant memory. They had become like sisters, traveling together and sharing in the joy of their grandson. This family story became a quiet lesson for all who knew it. It serves as a powerful reminder that we must never judge a person by a single chapter of their life. True understanding comes not from assumptions, but from listening with an open heart. Forgiveness is a bridge over the deepest divides, and in the end, it is empathy and sincerity that truly bind a family together. Thank you for joining us for this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on notifications. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for listening.